Learn how to factor by grouping. So remember, the first step is always to look and see if you have a GCF in all of your terms. But then we have a special way to factor, and this is used when you have 4 terms. So when you have 4 terms, we're going to use factor by grouping. And you'll see the reason we have to do this is these 4 terms in this first example have no GCF in common. So there's nothing I can pull out. So what you do when you do factor by grouping is you group the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to rewrite that example, 12p cubed minus 21p squared plus 28p minus 49. And we're going to group the terms. So you group the first 2, and then I'm going to group the last 2. And when you group the last 2, make sure you take the sign in front of that third term. Okay. And now at this stage, I'm going to basically ignore some of the terms. I'm only going to look at 2 at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor out the GCF of each one of these groups separately. So I'm not looking at what they all 4 have in common, but what just 2 of the 4 have in common. So let's start with this first group in red, 12p cubed minus 21p squared. I'm looking at what is the GCF of just these 2 terms. So that's what I'm asking myself. And the GCF of 12 and 21 is 3, and then the smallest exponent is p squared. So that's what I'm going to pull out. So I'm going to divide both of these terms by 3p squared. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with the second 2 terms. We're going to ask ourselves the same thing. What is the GCF of these 2 terms? Again, ignoring the other 2. So that's all I care about is these 2. So looking at 28p and negative 49, the only thing they have in common is a positive 7. So that's what we're going to pull out. And I'm going to divide both of these terms by 7. So 28p divided by 7 and negative 49 divided by 7. Okay, so I'm going to simplify this before we go to the last step. So I have 3p squared. This is going to become 4p minus 7 plus 7 times, and this becomes 4p minus 7. Okay, you know that you've solved this correctly if when you're done with this step, both of these factors are the same. So in this case, we have a 4p minus 7. They should be the same, or we've done something wrong with our factor by grouping. So once you've done this step, pull out that common factor that you should have. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have a 4p minus 7 in common. I'm going to pull that out in front. And I'm going to look at what I have left. When I pull out this 4p minus 7, what I have left is this 3p squared. So I'm going to put that here. And then I'm going to look on this other side. When I pull out the 4p minus 7, I'm left with this plus 7. So that's what's going to go here. And that's factor by grouping. That's factored.